3.
Is religion important to you?
Yes,
How often do you go to church?
every Sunday,
Why do you go to church?
because my parents take me.
How does your faith impact the way you treat other people?
It doesn't.
Why do you think religion is important?
Religion is important because it's a part of our faith.
How do you perceive the church? For example, seeing it as a second home?
I see it as a place of worship, prayer, and solitude.
All right. Is religion important to you?
Yes, religion is very important to me.
Why do you think religion is important?
Religion is important because it shows that we love God and we're helping other people. Yeah.
How often do you go to church?
I try to go every week. Doesn't always happen, but I know that I should go to church every week.
Why do you go to church?
I go to church because I think worshiping in a community is very important and I like to pray there.
How do you perceive the church? For example, seeing it as a second home.
I'd say I see the church as an inviting place that I can go to pray and talk about things.
How does your faith impact the way you treat other people?
I know to be nice and kind to other people and to not hurt them when I'm mad or something because using my faith as like a guideline of how to act and treat people.
Is religion important to you?
Yes, religion is very important to me. I've been a practicing Catholic my entire life. I was a altar boy, and so my Catholic faith is very important to me.
How often do you go to church?
Not as often as I would like. We go about once a month. Our busy schedules sometimes conflict with the mass schedule, but we do our best.
Why do you go to church?
For me, church is a way to recenter how I feel about life. It gives me an opportunity to think about the things that I've done in the past week, and it gets me ready for the next week. It just makes me feel good.
How does your faith impact the way you treat other people?
I always think back to the story in the Bible of the Good Samaritan, and I try to live that way. I just try to be as helpful to others as possible. I look for ways to support others, no matter what it may be, whether it's home, work, whatever happens.
Why do you think religion is important?
I think we all need to believe in something. It doesn't matter what the religion is. I think people need faith, and it helps them, again, be a better person.
How do you perceive the church?
I look at the church as a place of refuge, a place to pray, a place to, again, recenter myself, give me that opportunity to think about who I want to be and how I can be the best person I can be.
C. St. Paul explained that just as the various parts of a human body must rely on one another to function as a human body, so the members of the church must rely on one another if they are to live as God intended. This quote relates to my father's answer because he states that we should help and support one another like a family. This way of thinking may be brought about by his early experiences in the church, knowing its importance and embraces in his life. The quote, they may feel compelled to join with others who believe in God to worship, pray, socialize, and serve, but when they find themselves disagreeing with an aspect of the faith, they may retreat back to their anonymous world. These quotes relates to Emma's answers about religion and the church and how they allow us to socialize and help serve others as a community. This sets an example of how people shouldn't let slight differences affect them and their connections with God and other people.
The three things I learned from the interviews is that there are people who try to change how they live. Their decisions were not made through their own self-choice, like not attending church as often or not being self-aware of their purpose or goals. People can be forced into situations that they themselves cannot change, like work schedule and mass schedule. Some are not informed of the purposes of going to church, which prevents them from realizing why they actually go. The differences I see in the interviews is how some people don't really think that the church affects their lives in some way, while some live through learning and are mostly aware of their goals. The similarities is that they all go to church and believe in some type of individuality, like being able to answer for themselves. The answer that surprised me the most was that some people don't believe that the church affects how they interact with others. I find this surprising since most people are usually affected by their surroundings, even in the slightest.
Some things I learned from the interviews were that religion plays an important role in some people's lives, while in others it doesn't play as an important role. Religion can impact the way some people treat others, and that going to church often is not realistic in people with busy lifestyles. Many of the people interviewed do believe that religion is important, and they also attend church. But in the first interview, we can see she only goes to church because her mom makes her. In the last two interviews, they both go out of their own choice to church. Out of all the responses, Christine's response to how religion impacts the way she treats others surprised me the most because it didn't impact her, while on the other two, it did impact them, and that surprised me.
From these interviews, I have learned how faith and religion impacts a person. Some people use it more than others, and some just use it when they need to or they are forced. Emma and my dad have very similar responses because they are greatly affected by the church in the way that they treat others. And they try to go as often as possible. With a busy schedule, it's very difficult. However, Erica's interviewee did not seem very affected by the church, but she still sees it as a place of worship. I was surprised with my dad's response with religion being important to him because I never knew he was an altar boy.